1884, Africa was divided in a European conference room. No African voice, no African vote, no African veto.
Our primary objective is to establish the ground rules for the colonization.
Lines were drawn, borders fixed, control transferred. It was called the Scramble for Africa. Today, the word scramble is back. Ports expand, railways stretch inland, undersea cables land quietly on our shores, data centers rise beside highways. Delegations fly in, summits multiply, investment forums happen so often, we sometimes forget which lineage belongs to which conference. But this time, no one is drawing borders with rulers and red ink. No one is planting flags at sunrise. So what exactly is happening? Is this the new scramble? Or are we just seeing Africa finally become strategically irresistible? History does not repeat itself exactly, but it does. Stand at the port of Mombasa, containers track toward the sky, cranes move like disciplined giraffes, ships arrive from everywhere, and sometimes leave before traffic on Mombasa Road clears. In Nairobi, expressways float above matatus. In Addis Ababa, rail lines hum with ambition. Across West Africa, ports deepen for bigger ships. Africa is no longer peripheral. We are central to supply chains, central to minerals, central to markets. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, Africa continues to attract significant foreign direct investment, especially in infrastructure, energy, and extractives. China finances rail, Europe funds energy transition, the United States strengthens strategic partnerships, India deepens trade, Turkey builds airports, Gulf states invest in ports. Everyone seems interested. It is almost as if Africa has finally discovered its own group chat and everyone wants admin rights. But interest is not invasion. To compare eras, we must first remember what the original scramble actually was. In 1884, European powers met in Berlin. No Africa delegation attended, which, if we are honest, is a bit like discussing someone's inheritance without inviting them to the reading of the will. The Berlin Conference formalized territorial claims. This was not investment, it was annexation. Railways were built, but designed to extract outward. Ports expanded, but to remove raw materials away from African markets. Sovereignty was removed, authority imposed. The system was unilateral, and that distinction matters because today African states are several. Our presidents negotiate, our parliaments debate, our journalists investigate, sometimes loudly. But sovereignty alone does not eliminate imbalance. Capital still speaks loudly. Technology still concentrates power, and expertise still sharpens terms. The difference today is not the absence of power asymmetry. It is the presence of African agency. Infrastructure shapes economy for decades. Railways determine trade corridors. Ports define logistic hubs. Fiber cable decide who loads faster than your Wi-Fi during a football final. The World Bank estimates Africa infrastructure financing gap at tens of billions of dollars annually. The gap must be filled. Loans help, partnerships help, private capital helps. Debt itself is not evil. The real issue is structure. If projects generate growth, they strengthen sovereignty. If they underperform, repayment becomes pressure. Meanwhile, global demand for minerals is rising sharply. The International Energy Agency projects dramatic increase in lithium demand under net zero transitions. Africa holds critical reserves. Suddenly, what was once considered remote is now strategic. It turns out, when the world needs batteries, the map looks very different. But unlike the colonial era, contracts are negotiated. The question is not whether Africa participates. The question is how well it prepares. The modern frontier may not be territorial. It may be digital. Undersea cables, 5G towers, cloud storage, Data is economic power. Who stores it? Who regulates it? Who profits from it? Some scholars call this digital colonialism. But we must be careful with the language. No flags are being planted in our server rooms. Yet, influence does not always announce itself. If digital infrastructure is extremely owned, policy influence can follow ownership. If a regulatory capacity lags innovation, dependency grows quietly. And quiet shifts are often more powerful than dramatic ones. The scramble, if it exists, is infrastructural, informational, strategic, not territorial, which makes it harder to see and harder to debate, because you cannot protest a fiber cable the same way you protest a border. Influence today often arrives in contracts. History left Africa fragmented borders, trade routes that pointed outwards, commodity dependence. Today's negotiations occur within those inherited structures. But continental coordination is rising. The African Continent Free Trade Area under the African Union aims to expand intra-African trade significantly. Currently, intra-African trade hovers around 15% of total trade, far lower than Europe or Asia, which means we still trade more with distant markets than with the neighbors who share recipes. Fragmented negotiations weakens leverage, coordinated strategy strengthens it. If countries negotiate individually, external actors gain advantage. If regions align standards, share tactical expertise, and increase transparency, the balance shifts. Sovereignty is legal. Structural strength makes it practical, and practicality determines outcomes. History does not repeat itself. The 19th century scramble was about territory. Today's competition is about infrastructure, minerals, digital networks, supply chains. Africa is not being divided in conference room. It is negotiating in them. And negotiations require preparations. Preparations requires clarity. Clarity requires memory. The future will not be determined by who visits, or who signs first, or who builds fastest. It will be shaped by how Africa negotiates, how it coordinates, how it thinks in decades, not headlines. Africa past was partitioned. Its present is negotiated. Its future depends whether sovereignty is matched by structural strength.